it was the most destructive wildfire ever in the history of Los Angeles. The morning of January 7th, a 10-acre brush fire burning in the hills above Pacific Palisades.
Catastrophe in California.
Devastating Southern California wildfires.
But with Santa Ana winds gusting at 80 miles an hour in the mountains, the flames spread quickly across 35 square miles and leaving 12 people dead.
Today marks exactly 1 year since the devastating wildfires changed parts of Southern California, including the Pacific Palisades.
So this is where my living room was. I think right about here is where our Christmas tree would have been. I painted this mailbox. Yeah, this is all my my furniture. And this is the fire pit. So we kind of thought that the hills would burn, right? But we're pretty low, we're pretty close to the ocean. I never thought that it would happen and that it would cause such, like, the amount of destruction that it did. The thing about your house burning down is, like, after it happens, you kind of feel like you're living on an alien planet a little bit. It was a really isolating experience. This is my house on the map, and that was me trying to, like, map out where the wind was going and where I thought the flame was going. That was me, like, circling it, watching it, because it was on both sides, and we were, like, trying to convince ourselves, like, no, no, no. That was me crying. This is me, a video of me saying that if my house survives, I would go back to church, which I didn't, because I didn't. And then, but, like, you could, like, live watch it, which is pretty terrible.
All right, so if you want to, one of you can go on the front, and then these doors are kind of funky, so. It was up there on the Santa Monica Mountains that you can see right there, and then all that ember cast and all that debris just blew into the ocean, and then the tides brought it back in, the current brought it back in, and a lot of it washed up on the beach. In fact, if you want to talk about environmental impacts, this is charred pieces of wood that are still here from the Palisades fire. So this has been over a year, and it's been washed up on the beach and still coming up. Wow. So you can still see these. So yeah, that's the first sign that it's coming back, but that's that grass, that light flashy fuel, that in another year or two, if we have a drought, could cause another fire in this area.
They always start small, but you let that go with some wind, and all of a sudden your little fire, the size of a trash can, grows to an acre within 20 minutes.
And that's exactly what made the Palisades fire so bad, is it was that perfect storm of heavy sustained easterly wind after a few years before of heavy rain, but then a dry drought leading up to that point where it hadn't really rained in wintertime here in Southern California. And that's why we had one of the most devastating fires ever.
Part of the challenge that we faced was normally once we get a knockdown on a house and we put the fire out, there's not so much wind that embers are cast to another house. But unless we had 100% extinguishment, if we had any embers, there was a 95% chance that every one of those embers would start another fire.
So one of the interesting features of the Santa Monica Mountains is that fire is a part of the evolutionary history. The chaparral and many other plants that are in this area actually don't germinate until after a fire. So the fires break down their seed coats to allow for germination. So like you can see this tree on fire, this one right here, all the way up. That tree, again, you could come back and look at that. That one's those two there were on fire all the way up. And our students were in the library right there, and so they were seeing that fire there and kind of freaking out. It would have been pretty freaky to see. One of the things that's important for us to realize is that fire is always going to be part of the history of the Santa Monica mountain ranges. The question is, how are humans going to be a part of that? It's us living now in a developed world kind of situation. The fires started long before humans were ever on the scenes or the native Chumash were ever here. People learned to live with fires by moving around. As the Palisades rebuild goes forward, there's a lot of really good proposals, but they're going to make homeowners think very differently about what houses look like in ways that are going to be, frankly, very uncomfortable for many Californians.
Hurling 1 million acres and consuming countless dwellings.
The idea is like, what percentage do we want to give ourselves to withstand the fires that will inevitably come? Other parts of the American Southwest have had this conversation, but Southern California has just not.
I would say nature definitely sets up that perfect storm, and it seems like some human activity oftentimes lights it off, whether maliciously or non-intentionally.
I think a lot about what I'm going to take away from this experience. I still feel like this is the most beautiful place in the world, and I feel very lucky that I get to even experience it a little bit like this.